Gather for
Not yet.
Her.
There we go.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to Gather for Her, Season 6. Welcome to 2022. And welcome to joining us live on our social channels this morning. We're very, very excited that you're here. If this is your first time joining us at Gather for Her, we gather on a weekly basis for collective conversation, gathering collective wisdom, and just what are the nuggets that we're meant to hear as leaders moving forward in these very interesting times. I'm super excited to welcome a very special guest this morning. But just before I do, I want to welcome you and introduce you to the Powerhouse Braid. I'll start. I'm Charlene Sinjenko, and I'm pleased to be joining you from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Squamish First Nations here on the Sunshine Coast. And I want to pass it over this morning to Christina Benty.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to everyone who's returning and all those new folks. All of you are welcome here. So thank you. My name is Christina Benty, and I live in Golden, BC, which is also the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa and the Shuswap peoples and the Columbia River Métis. So I am thrilled. It's a balmy 0 this morning. So, but so it, in my world right now, it's gorgeous. So I'm going to pass it over to Sharon.
Thank you, Christina. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with all of you for another season of We Gather. My name is Sharon Marshall, and I am coming to you from the traditional and ancestral territory of the Snuneymuxw and the Snuneymuxw First Nations on Vancouver Island. And I'll pass it over to you, Tina.
Ooh, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for those who have migrated with us from Crowdcast over to our social channels. I'm Tina O. I am so grateful to be here from Naquelaquam, also known as Bowen Island, floating on the beautiful Coast Salish Sea on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Squamish people. I'm a story tracker, and I am a listener. So I'm going to be here holding that space of the clues that come up between us. And I am following the chat, meaning comments. So if you're on our social channels, this is our first season live on our social channels. So this might be the first time that you've even met us. Feel free to comment. They don't happen exactly in real time, but I will do my best to get to you. So thank you for being here. And I'm going to pass back to you, Shar, to introduce Lori.
Awesome. I'm so excited to dig into the conversation. When I introduce the braid to people, I say, well, imagine that an artist, an illuminator, an orator, and a muse walk into a boardroom. What kind of conversation might we have? And this morning, with our very special guest, first guest of 2022, I want to introduce you to my friend Lori Joyce. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Lori before I swing over to her. She is a phenomenal entrepreneur that I have followed and admired for close to 2 decades. And in her current position, she is the CEO of her company, Betterwith Ice Cream. My husband and I had to do some market research last night to prove that we're in all the way with Lori and Betterwith. And yeah, for good reason. Lori is a purpose-driven entrepreneur. She's a mom. She is a mentor, a supporter, a role model for all entrepreneurs across BC, across Canada, and internationally. And I started following her change-making journey in early 2000 when I hit the Cupcakes store, and I was a regular visitor there. But also I was fascinated that she got into the media. And interplayed between the entrepreneur and the media personality. So as you can imagine, I was really excited to dig into that. And today we are talking about honesty, accountability, and better practices, being better with better practices for everyone. not only within certain industries and what we're putting in our bodies, but also how we are supporting, investing, taking care of the women and the families that are actually running the businesses behind these products. And without further ado, I want to swing over to you, Lori, and welcome you from all of us.
Oh, good morning. That was lovely. Wow, 20 years, boy. That shocked me this morning. I was like, wow. And I'm still operating out of a basement. That is exciting. I couldn't be more excited to be here, and I promise to give you as much time as you need. So I know that we've started late, but don't worry about me. I'm here to share the story and answer any questions. And I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm actually more thrilled to kick off 2022 with you ladies. This is going to be a lot of fun.
So grateful that you're here. Well, I am going to pass to the story woman as you know, just to kind of paint the picture of the story that we're walking into. I know the story, but let's bring everybody to this page. So Tia, I'll turn it over to you.
Cool. Yeah. Lori, thank you. So media is the beat of our drum here at Powerhouse, and you have done this amazing walk of blending entrepreneurship with media. And you bring, even just in the first 5 minutes of being here, well, now 25 minutes of being here, you bring such transparency and just yourself into this space. I'm curious, from what you do and what we do and what we're both passionate about that role of media for you and the connection and the transparency of that, because I know you're moving into, most recently, you're calling forward investors and heart-led investors. And I'm curious just what the role of media means to you now and how it's helping you, or anything, frankly, you want to add to that conversation about honesty and entrepreneurship and media. What would you, want to offer us here?
So maybe we should start with the TV show, Cupcake Girls, because that's really where I believe what you're referencing when you talk about media, because that was very big media and incredibly powerful media. When Heather and I started Cupcakes in Vancouver in 2002, I naturally just stepped into the role of PR. My comfort zone is connecting with people and storytelling and sharing what I'm doing, what the business was doing. And that literally became the opportunity where the broadcaster approached us to do a show. I think that they saw this incredible, interesting connection between Heather and I, who's my best friend. We grew up together. So there was this fantastic dynamic, and there's this truth about what we were doing. You know, we were two girls in our mid-20s that truly just wanted to make our dream come true. There was no business planning behind what we were doing or strategy. We were having fun with it. We were going crazy with it, but we were living it, and we were living it in the moment. What the opportunity, what the show did, is it really exposed me to, it was a reality show, but it wasn't reality. So we won a Gemini Award in season 1 because in season 1, everything was real. I'm not an actress, nor is Heather. Actually, I'll admit, I think Heather was a very strong lead, and I think she could become an actress because I discovered through that how talented you have to be and the certain type of personality you need to be in the profession of acting. I was a little bit more hesitant and nervous at that point. But as we went through season 2 and season 3, to keep the show, and of course, this isn't a show that we owned or anything, but to keep the show on schedule and to keep it actually worthwhile to do from a production perspective, it eventually had to be scripted. And that's when I learned that reality show isn't actually, any of it isn't reality. And so that was really interesting to me because, as we were doing shows, it was like, okay, read this line happy, read this line neutral, and then read this line angry. And so the magic would happen in editing. And often I would have to accept what that looked like. And I knew very well that they had the final control and the power in that. Needless to say, for the business, it was still an incredible opportunity. And there's nothing that I did in that show that I don't stand behind or accept. Because at the end of the day, my integrity and my reputation is everything that I have. And so I really care for that. But you don't have the power when you have a TV show like that that's owned by a national broadcaster. And I'm sure you understand this.
Yeah.
But the reality and the truth is it was still the most incredible, most powerful opportunity for a company like us. And I would do it again in a heartbeat.
I would do it again. Okay.
In a heartbeat. Actually, it'd be a tremendous advantage to do it again because I understand exactly what so our intention was very different than their intention. And that prepared me a lot for where I'm at today and how things would go in round two. Although, honestly, that was 10 years ago and television, as you know, has changed dramatically. This was so long ago, Netflix didn't exist. This is so long ago that we weren't streaming. We weren't. In 2012 was the beginning of Instagram. That's how long ago this was. So we didn't even pick up on that because we were so focused on the TV show itself. But, and I'm trying to respect the timeline here, so I promise to be much quicker. I feel that right now, and I don't know if this is a result of, more importantly, as a result of the pandemic, or because of US politics, but social media is something that I now connect with and I feel is ready for me. So going from a TV show and then starting Betterwith, where of course social media, Facebook is this tremendous platform opportunity. At my age, and I'm 48, so about 5 years ago, I really struggled with social media. And I'm going to be honest with you on that because I didn't connect with it because I felt that I couldn't be who I am. Yeah. And so the entire reason why I started Betterwith, coming from the mindset of feeling very betrayed as a customer, and I wanted to produce a product and a company that didn't exist in the marketplace. I needed to be who I am with my purpose and my mission. And I didn't feel that I could properly represent myself on social media. I really struggled. But in the last couple of years, I really feel that there's been this shift in communication in social media. I feel that we can now express vulnerability. I see vulnerability, and that's who I am. I can't be a bootstrapping entrepreneur without expressing vulnerability because this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And in the very beginning, when I launched, I would share stories. And there's this incredible moment where I was celebrating getting listed in Thrifty Foods, but on the same day, they towed my car away because I was that bootstrapping entrepreneur. And I shared that story, and immediately I was told to take it off. And I was like, what do you mean? This is truth. This is exactly what happened to me today. As I was celebrating with my parents at lunch, like drinking wine and enjoying that moment, they were literally towing my car out of my driveway. And I had to run to make sure that I could collect my kids' stuffies that were in the car. That's all I cared about was their belongings. And sorry, that still makes me emotional because it was pretty intense. But I wanted to tell the truth and I wanted to share that story. And the people in the industry that were influencers and trained professionals in social media were like called me the second it went live. And they were like, you have to take that down. And I was like, but this is truth. This is exactly like, don't people want to hear this? And she said, people want to hear that when you're on a stage and you're selling your book. They want to hear that after you've gotten through that and you're successful. They don't want to hear it because it sounds like you're asking people to go buy ice cream. And I never would have thought of it that way. Like, I was like, wow, I'm just like, social media isn't about selling ice cream. It's about telling my story. So I really backed away, because I was confused. I was like, well, if I can't tell
Yeah.
what I'm going through, what am I going to share? Like a picture of ice cream? To me, that was really boring. And yes, I own an ice cream company, but it's not about the ice cream. It really isn't. It's about the purpose. That's such a much a bigger, and I think such a more powerful and more empowering story to tell. And I didn't know how to tell it. But today, actually, in this campaign, this crowdfunding campaign has even accelerated that. I feel there's this incredible movement on social media to express vulnerability,
Yeah.
to express real time and rawness and authenticity. I get that. That's who I am. And that's why I feel like I can really take advantage of that and thrive in this moment. And that's what I'm excited about. So hopefully that continues.
Thank you. I'm going to add one little piece because it was part of the question, but I didn't have to ask it because you went right there. But I want to put it in, drop it in here. Part of the question was, how has being seen changed you as a change maker, or how has being seen impacted your work as a change maker? And you just went right there. So thank you for that. I haven't answered
I
it
don't
before though.
I don't do that for me.
Yeah.
I do that to help others.
Yeah.
So the more that I express today, the more that I express what I'm really going through, and I can express that in real time and be as truthful as I am, the more I feel it helps others and gives them permission to do the same. And that motivates me. So it's a full circle. So when I can, and it truly is, I'm in the food space, and I think it's the right time for women in the food space to really make a difference. And now that we can be honest about it and lead that way, it's the most exciting time.
Thank you. Over to you, Shar. Thank you.
Yeah, I just like to kind of tie it into the type of media that you are doing now. So for folks that don't know, Lori is currently running an investment campaign, which we're going to dig into a little bit. The reason that we were so curious to have this conversation was because last year on Gather for Her, we actually really dug into funding companies as women entrepreneurs, and we have quite a few Indigenous women in our community. And we really talked about, when you come to the table as a purpose-driven entrepreneur, mission-driven, whatever you want to name it, but where you have a specific contribution or call that you're looking to make with your business, and your business is the vehicle to make it. When you take on investment, your uber clarity and focus on that call now goes to making sure your venture capital partners are happy, making sure that you're hitting all of your targets. And we really dug into that conversation. There was a lot of angst in a conversation. So we're like, okay, we're really looking at different ways to invest and fund our companies differently. And now I'm curious because I've followed your Front Funder campaign. I admire what you're doing and how you're doing it. And quite honestly, in total transparency, I've supported your Front Funder campaign because I want to come to the table, but I want to pull that storytelling piece into what you're doing now and what that campaign it looks like to you. And I know Christina wants to dig into that question a little bit too.
Oh, I'm very happy to talk about that because it's exactly what I'm going through right now. And there's very important reasons as to why I decided to do Front Funder. So when I launched into the CPG space, which is consumer packaged goods, I went from cupcakes, which was brick and mortar, into an entirely different business model, which was grocery. And I went in with the mindset of being a consumer that felt betrayed. I was very disappointed because I had been buying for years a product that I thought was ice cream. And then I self-taught myself and realized it didn't even have the word ice cream anywhere on the package. So I didn't understand how something could be in the marketplace that tasted like ice cream, that resembled ice cream, but it literally couldn't be called ice cream. So there was all of this self-learning. And because I was already an entrepreneur, I just immediately was like, this is an interesting opportunity. And that connection was immediate because of my upbringing. So I live on a farm. I grew up on a farm. I live on the farm now. And my immigrant parents, from the moment I was born, made the decision to raise me and connect me with the land and appreciate how it grows and how we can live self-sustainably. And that's the premise behind Betterwith Ice Cream. But this entire time of being in CPG and pushing this premium ice cream product that I felt that deserves to be there, I could not raise a dollar. Or I should make it more clearly. I could have accepted money, but I would have lost control. And it's really important to understand that because Betterwith is a CPG product. And here are the stats. These are North American wide. Only 2% of female-founded CPG brands, consumer brands like myself, hit past the $1 million mark. And if you're under the $1 million mark, that's called the death funnel. I'm in the death funnel. Also, another stat is only 2.3%, and this is all current. Like I have articles. I'm telling you this from like an article literally last month. Only 2.3% of female-founded CPG brands get VC funding. So there's obviously a correlation. And in the 4 to 5 years that I've been in this business, I have met the most amazing, strong, smart, incredibly passionate women entrepreneurs that are producing better for you products, that are hustling and they're sacrificing their families for this, and they might not hit. 98% of them are not going to hit over $1 million, which means that they might not ever make it because it's that expensive. And in all the years that I have been trying to raise money, I was told things like, "Oh, I'm just going to be I'm going to make you so uncomfortable because I'm going to tell you the truth." I had my head patted on, saying, "How cute! You're making an ice cream product. How cute is that?" I had people say, "What do you mean your husband doesn't support you financially? How else did you get here?" I've had, "Wow, you mean you have done this on your own without your husband's support? How did you do that?" These are conversations that happen in the last 3 years, which these are conversations that happened like 50 years ago. I just sat there. I'll never forget. I pulled over on the side of the road because I just couldn't believe the conversation that I was in. I had to really not get upset, stay focused, and stop driving so I could actually respond with something super appropriate and non-reactive. I was also told, I respect the fact that you didn't accept our offer because at the end of the day, all we wanted was control. And I would say, why? So naively, I would say, why do you want to control an ice cream company? And they were like, "Oh, it's not about the ice cream. It's about the control." These are verbatim conversations that I've had. And so I was forced, because I believe in the product so much, to move back home to the family farm to properly stabilize and sustain this business. It was either that or I was going to have to fold and get a job, which obviously wouldn't be bad, but I still am, in the mindset of being super passionate about doing this. And I felt that that was the right decision. And lucky for me and the relationship I have with my parents, who understand my discipline and my passion and my work, and who also love ice cream. My dad stepped in. He was the only man that stepped in and said, look, the farm has your back. Let's talk about this and figure out how we can help. And so today, or, a month ago, I made the decision to do Front Funder for the following reason. It was the only opportunity that I have as a company our size to raise capital and not lose control. And when someone's giving you a deal for like 40% of your company, the math is clear. You're not losing control. And so I want to take this opportunity to talk and share this mindset with other people or bootstrapping entrepreneurs that happen to be part of this chat. The control doesn't start at 40%. What happens, and there are so many terrifying stories, is that if you don't achieve your goals and if you don't hit the targets that you all agree upon, that's when they start to take more. And that's when you eventually lose control. So you will only maintain control in the event that you hit the targets, which is still a risk. Because at the time, this is before the pandemic. And who would have thought about the pandemic before the pandemic? So my gut told me to step away from that table and walk away from an offer of $500,000. And that offer came 3 times. So 3 times, 3 different meetings, 3 different groups, when they all told me it was the best deal I was ever going to get. And when you're desperate for money, that's really hard to step away from that, because you don't know if you're gonna survive. It turns out that the pandemic happened 6 months later, and the pandemic actually happened to be the perfect thing for our business because it just accelerated my message about food security and food transparency and accountability, which was. In that regard, spiritually, I had the upper hand finally for the first time. Front Funder is a Canadian-based organization that does equity crowdfunding. And equity crowdfunding has been around for a lot longer in the US. And we're slowly catching up. And with the changes and the deregulation that's happened in just the last 12 months, it's become that much more accessible. And so that is why I waited. And when I saw these news announcements in the summer, I made it, I was adamant about getting on the platform as fast as possible. So what I mean by that is, because of the recent changes, equity crowdfunding in Canada is now available to every Canadian. So you can support a company, you can be a partner in a company, and invest in a company for a nominal amount of dollars. And you can help us scale, and you can help us expand into the marketplace, which is really, really exciting. As a startup business owner and as a female entrepreneur, what it does, it allows me to retain control and honor my promise and build it with my community, which is the crowd. And so you get to develop this network organically with people that believe in what you're doing, and they're with you in your company for the same reason as your vision. And that to me is incredibly significant and important. It meant they were going to trust me to achieve this goal versus come into the company to control it. And that was so that's truly the number one reason why I've chosen equity crowdfunding. And I speak so much about it on social media because I've also discovered through so many people reaching out to me and other bootstrapping entrepreneurs that they want to learn more and they're unfamiliar with it. But it is because of the digital technology that we have today, it's this very powerful platform that is new, and it's absolutely going to change the opportunity for bootstrapping entrepreneurs today and in the future.
Ooh, thank you, Lori. I feel like I've learned so much from this conversation already. Like there's tons of stuff that I've never thought of. I'm a passionate foodie, I suppose. Like I read labels and I am disgusted all the time about what I see. And I'm very concerned about our food industry. Everybody has to buy food. And the fact that our food is filled with garbage and chemicals that actually have those long-term impacts on our health. And so hearing about and so I'm always conscious when I'm at the grocery store, reading labels, looking at ingredients, and thinking about who's making what, and what are the stories that are connected to the product. So I'm quite fascinated. And like Shar, I've definitely done market research on your product. It's really good. But it's fascinating to hear what the underbelly is. And you've kind of opened up our eyes a little bit to that. And I appreciate your willingness to, a couple things, tell the truth and to also be vulnerable, because and you said this earlier in the conversation, they didn't want you to tell the truth on social media about what your life was really like. And yet, if we don't tell that truth in real time, we have a tendency to romanticize when it's in the rearview mirror, right? We romanticize those challenges. And so I was not familiar with, certainly familiar with your product, but not familiar with the funding challenges that go on in the background. So that I really appreciate that. And I want to, I suppose, what are the messages that you would have for the folks that are listening, particularly related to your passion around food transparency? I'm curious about that. What are the messages that you would like to impart?
Well, because of my upbringing, and so for me, I have this innate connection to food and just this profound knowledge that honestly, I didn't appreciate when I was a teenager. Growing up on a farm was totally getting in the way of my social life. I just wanted to play with my friends, and it didn't become relevant and it didn't become important until I became a mom. And when I became a mom and I had to feed my young family, and I was in the power position of making those decisions, that's really when that moment was like, oh, this is really important. And through the ice cream aisle and reading labels for the first time, that's just like you, that's when that came. And I could have had a lot of shame moving back home in my mid-40s. And, it became this gift because a year later, the pandemic started, and all of a sudden I'm stranded on a 5-acre organic farm with my parents, who have been farming for probably at least, as we know, 4 generations on both sides. And they brought this knowledge with them. And so all of a sudden I'm now in the garden and in the orchard with my dad, who has this profound connection to not only the earth, but how things grow and why things grow. And I think, like most people, when the pandemic hit the news, was like, oh, as soon as we get vaccinated or the vaccines come out, this is going to go away. And so it was exactly 2 years ago. And my dad just looked at me, so disappointed in me. And he said, Lori, this is here for the rest of your life, assuming that you're going to live longer than me. He's like, this isn't going away. He was like, look at why you're in this business now and what you're trying to achieve. He's like, I have been doing this here your whole life. And only now do people actually want to buy our products. Only now are people really supporting local farmers and going to their markets. He's like, the people are so, we have, but the mass market hasn't prioritized at all about the value in the importance of food, the education of food, the nutrition of food, and how real whole food is actually, when provided properly, is medicine. I didn't believe my dad when he said that. I went to university. I have a degree in science. I was like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. Everything he has said in the 2 years, and we have dinner and lunch almost every day together, has been a lecture. So I have essentially been living and going to school while living on this farm, and absolutely grown to want the information. I now understand I need the information. And now I get how this has become such a special time in my life to be stuck here learning this from my dad, because I thought going into the grocery business, I was smarter than him. And it turns out I know nothing. This pandemic is happening because we, the people which are running companies, have created an unstable environment. And we have so much work to do, and we're still not listening. Anytime that there is more danger and more spreading, we run to Costco and we consume and hoard. That has to change. And until our behavior change, not only, we don't have to put pressure on companies, we have to put pressure on each action, individually, every household, every community, and that will impact businesses. But we, in these 2 years, are still behaving and we're still reacting the same way. And my dad, every day, like literally, you should come over, because it could be interesting for you, but for me, it's just like, I almost made him a t-shirt that said, like, for Christmas, what have I been saying?
Just, I want to have a conversation with your dad.
We actually had a media event here at the farm last month with the Vancouver Island chapter of Edible magazine. And they interviewed us as 2 generations of family in the food business. And we talked about this because I have a finished product in the grocery store, but if it wasn't for him, that product wouldn't exist. And it's the first time living here without them having any PR or any salespeople that Eat Magazine, other social media platforms were taking pictures of my dad and of his produce without any of us knowing, and featuring it on the cover of these posts or magazines. It was so interesting for me. I was like, here's an example of how long it can take to become trendy. And it took my entire life for people to not only appreciate, but more importantly, value what they were doing. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, he would have sold this farm because they're tired. And this pandemic has become this opportunity where not only do we feel so lucky to be stranded on this farm, we more importantly recognize it's like a full-time immunity boost for us. So we've never been sick in these 2 years, no one from the family, including my young kids, because every time that we have a meal on that table, it comes directly from our property. And if we can't raise it or grow it, we forage or we fish or we hunt. So the only thing that we now have to buy in the stores is like grain and dairy, because we don't have that anymore. But everything else, from the honey, like our bees, to all of the produce and the vegetables and the meat, generally come from the farm. So I just, again, I'm so sorry, ladies, because I do happen to talk, and I know this. I haven't respected your time limit of 5 minutes. So I
It's
just wanted to say sorry about that.
it's
Just realized what time it is.
it's all good. I just before I pass on to Sharon, because if there's someone that is so passionate about food sovereignty, it's my Indigenous sister Sharon. I just want to track for a couple of minutes, because it's funny, every conversation we sit down to with Gather for Her, and I truly wish we were around your table in your family's home and having coffee. But every Gather for Her conversation, I always start and I go, I wonder what this is really about. I wonder what this conversation is really about. And so I'm going to take a moment to share some reflections back. And it's based on the collective conversation that we've had over the last, 60 weeks. As we work in a really conscious way, as you are, with the guidance of our elders, we are healing our relationship with the land. And that is what we're being taught right now. And when you brought up your dad, like I actually got shivers, because a lot of my guidance comes from my dad, who is passed, and the males in my family line. I very much just want to say that I respect his journey and the time that you have right now with him. I love the t-shirt, but I'll just be honest, like I'm actually really, really jealous. I'm really jealous of you, and it's like it's golden, and there's something so much bigger that's happening, and I know you know that. The vehicle that's this little container, the journey that this container's encouraging you to take is as a change maker is so powerful, and all of your ancestors are like cheering you on, and all of my ancestors, all of our ancestors, because we've had conversations where Indigenous healers have come on and said, we have to heal our relationship with the land. Like, and
If we don't do that, we have nothing.
Yeah.
We will lose everything. And most people, sorry, I do get emotional because I know it's very special that I have this chime now with my parents. And I'm so appreciative because I sit there and go, wow, what happens if I didn't move back? I think about that, and I think about how I would have missed out and not even known how much I was missing out. And that's been such a profound lesson for me. And a gift. I keep on saying that because I do think it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's something I never would have planned. It's something I never would have actually thought I needed. And because we get so busy focusing on our own family, on our immediate family. And we think that we're good, but what we don't realize is that value that they can still show us and the wisdom that they can still teach us, because boy, did I need it. This year, my parents had one of the best harvest seasons ever. Why is that? I think that has something to do with the fact that there was less air pollution, something to do with the fact that there was less congestion, something to do with that there was more breathing space for everything in nature to actually grow properly with more oxygen and more nutrients. We were all hands on deck picking our fruits, in season, and our nuts, but it was in abundance. For the first time, it was in our beds. We almost lost, because of Blythe, our walnuts a year ago. This year, no Blythe. So, you have to, and the only way you can do that is by growing yourself to really appreciate how much work that is and how much of a difference it makes. And so you're right. It does get bottled up in a little ice cream container, but the message is so much more important. And I hope through social media, I get to eventually become so much louder that people will have greater appreciation, not only for their own needs, but for their community needs as well.
Wow, Lori, you're such a wise woman. I really appreciate everything that all the stories that you've shared.
You can thank my dad. And you guys, just so you know, there's always an open, he loves having women around his table. Let me tell you, he is a old European man that just has so much to share and love to give. And yeah, he's adorable, stubborn, like you can only imagine. You know, it's my mom's the wise one. I have still a lot of learning to do. But yes, whenever you come to Victoria, please, I'd highly recommend coming during harvest season, and bring an bring an extra, bucket or box to take stuff home with you. But please know that the door is always open.
Who would have thunk it? Hey, ice cream, and we're having this conversation. I mean, it's yeah, we can't make this.
Well,
this up.
Today it's about ice cream. And in the future, I believe with a name like Betterwith, there's a tremendous opportunity to be collaborative and to go beyond the aisles of frozen. And, I guess I just really like the challenge of starting off in the toughest section in a grocery store, so if I can survive this, I can survive any aisle. I tell myself that all the time, but I think that there is a real opportunity to grow and diversify where we retain the values of simple, clean ingredients and teach in the other aisles of the grocery store.
Right. I just wanted to say that I appreciate your story about you following your gut. That really hit me. That's a hard thing to do, and there's many entrepreneurs on this call that are bootstrapping it, including myself. And so that really hit me. So thank you for sharing that. I'm just curious, as a mother and an entrepreneur, what do you do for self-care as you continue to move forward with your vision? How do you how do you take care of yourself?
Well, don't think that there's any such thing as balance. I think that's impossible when you're bootstrapping. And so I actually, I'm very active outside, and growing up, I was always in sports. So my mindset and my body requires me to be physically active all the time. So that's ingrained in me, and my body demands it. But what I do to kind of, because I'm so passionate about being a mom, but also about being, leading this company and being a business person, I actually involve my kids a lot in what I do. And specifically on several occasions when I have important meetings or I have important meetings that are going to impact them, I actually will take them out of school and I'll bring them to those meetings. I really like my children because they're definitely, they're now 10, 11. So they absolutely will remember this. But from a very early age, I was doing that, and it's amazing what they take from that. I felt that, when I was having a marketing presentation, and I'll never forget this. I brought Lexi, my youngest. He's the reason why I started Betterwith Ice Cream, because I was buying ice cream for him because it was his favorite food at the time. He was 3. And so when he was like 6, he must have been about 6 years old. I brought him to a very important marketing meeting with Sobeys because they chose me as a We Pick BC candidate. And we did a photo shoot, and his face and my dad's face, we were hanging from the ceiling of every Thrifty Foods in BC. And so before that meeting, we had this marketing strategy session, and I think a lot of people do find it really weird when you bring a child into a meeting, into a corporate environment. I don't think they would today after the pandemic, but at that time, it definitely was like, oh, that's cute. Okay, well, let's have the meeting. And while we were just doing introductions, because Lexi at that age had already performed demos with me in grocery stores, he was busy setting up the presentation. And I didn't even realize that at the time because I was so busy not networking. But that taught me and showed me immediately from the perspective of a mother is not only do kids pick up, they recognize patterns. It's very quick for them to understand and to relate to a situation. So he obviously he can do it now, but it was such a profound moment. I'll never forget it. And I use that example all the time because I think that it showed me right there that whether he's learning in a classroom or he's with me, he's learning. And there's something very special to me about teaching my two boys that they have a mom that's a female founder of a company that is disrupting the industry. And the fact that they were there from the very beginning to experience that. And I'm very proud of that. And so I bring them into my environment all the time. And it forces me to even behave as a mom in those rooms with those people so that they recognize that it's the same person that's with them as with other people. And I think that's really important. And I think more people should do that because I think kids would really have this incredible appreciation for the sacrifice that their parents are making, but also be able to relate and learn from.
You're modeling the behavior, right? And that's what
Yeah.
that's what you want your kids to see. No, that's brilliant. Thank you for
Well,
sharing.
you can't practice transparency and not do
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right?
Thank you, Lori. Thank you.
So yeah, it was interesting. They've taught me as much as I've taught them, and it's the same with my dad. And I think there's that give and take, and that's what makes this journey so worthwhile because it's very stressful. So the learnings of it keep you going.
We're moving into our last 10 minutes on our hour, and I know Christina Bente's got a jet. So I just want to find out if there's anything lingering for you, Christina, and then we'll move into our last round.
Thank you, Tina. I'm just this boy. I could talk about this for hours, and I would love to meet your father one day, and I'd love to come to the farm. And I think for all of those who are listening, it's really important to recognize that we all vote with our time, energy, and money, and that we have a high level of autonomy. We don't necessarily recognize it, but we have a high level of autonomy on how we do that. And so by paying attention to where our dollars are spent, we're sending a message to the industries, the food industry. If we're looking, you're disrupting the food industry, we can disrupt the food industry with our time, energy, and money. And so I'm so grateful for your work in the world. And I didn't even know, like I said, I've learned so much today. So thank you. I do have to exit. This has been an impactful conversation, and I appreciate your presence here today. Thank you, Lori, and thanks, team, for the opportunity.
Really nice meeting you, Christina. And please, I mean it. Definitely come to the farm. You will not leave. You will love it.
I think there's going to be an episode shot at the farm. Lori is
easily
right?
we can do it. Well, we used to have to film an episode a season on the farm with Cupcake Girls, and that was really interesting with my parents. But it was they enjoyed that and that notoriety. Just to finish off Christina's comment, I really wanted to have you understand and the audience understand how much control and how much power the consumer has. And it's really important that the consumer start using that to dictate what they need and what they want to see in the grocery store. So ultimately, what I'm saying is don't be complacent. Demand. We need better food. We need better food and better nutrition for our families, for the next generation and all the following generations. The grocery stores need that information. They are actually going to listen to you because you're the reason why they stay open. It's not because of us, it's because of you. And so please, what did I tell you, Shar, yesterday about IGA when you were asking if it's there? And I was like, I get so many customers asking, like, did you actually find Betterwith there?
I totally did. Yeah,
Wow,
it's here on the coast. I'll just make sure it's in both our grocery stores. That'll be my responsibility. Yeah.
That's because of customer demand right there. That's not because of me. And so that's exactly, that's because of a CBC interview I did a year ago, I bet. So I'm going to definitely talk to you more about that. But yeah, I am a customer that wanted to produce a better product for the marketplace. And all of the men and women that I've met in this business that are all like me, bootstrapping or startup phase, building these companies, they all did it for the same reason that I did. They saw an opportunity to produce a better product and they knew how to do that and they wanted to do that. And so we need to support those products and those people because there are real people behind those products. They have good intention and they're working really hard to get your attention. And so look for them, on the periphery, because what that means in grocery, it's the big guys are always the ones that are paying for the prime real estate. Like anything, they pay to be there. But if you look on the bottom shelf or at the very top shelf or on the sides, that's when you'll actually find generally the local products and the better products. Those are the products that will speak to you and that you'll be more impressed by. They will serve you better.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. I want to go to Sharon and Shar, and then I'm going to close us with a little gratitude around change making. Yeah. Sharon, Shar, anything you want to add?
I just want to say, I'd love to have another conversation with you. That this conversation is not over. It might be over right on this episode, but yeah, this has to be an ongoing conversation. We've only just started the conversation. So thank you.
We'll have the next conversation on the farm.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I just want to take. Oh, sorry, Lori. I was just going to say, I just want to take a second and acknowledge how gracious and generous Lori is with her time. She has sincerely been a huge mentor and supporter to women entrepreneurs in our region, in our province, and far beyond. And I think I just want you to know that, we appreciate it. Like sometimes those pieces don't get seen, but you've been a very big support and you're very generous and gracious. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you. I enjoy what I do. And, your energy that you give me fuels me. And so thank you, because I think the real definition of community is truly hearing each other and supporting each other. And that is the type of community that I'd like to be a part of.
Wow, that sounds like the perfect bridge for me. I love that, Lori, that this is the kind of community we want to be a part of. I want to thank you from a place of gathering I'm going to go to the farm metaphor, the apples, like the fruit from the trees that you've given us today. We in Powerhouse are a house of leaders for global impact, and we use the word changemaker as kind of like the catch-all, but I know that many of us here, they're watching or listening, may not self-identify with that word. It might be entrepreneur or social impactor or visionary or liminal leader, we've heard, or artist of impact. And some of the stories that you've given us today might be things that we understand, like coming back to the earth. But there are some other pieces that were really new, and I want to just highlight them. And it's around our understanding of integrity and around our embodiment of control, and about there was a piece that you offered us here around remembering that we can come in and crowdfund, and we can get behind your product because we hold the same vision of the food that we want to be eating. So we can be a part of your company by funding the food that you're creating. And that, to me, was the first time I'd heard where the word investment from a completely different lens. It's like you're giving us a new definition of what investment actually means. And I think that in this conversation, if anybody listens to it again, like, listen for the things that aren't the stories you've heard before. Listen for what's underneath those stories, like things like that. Because I hear in this conversation integrity, control. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead. I see it. Yes. What do you want to say? Go for it, Lori.
Oh, I was just going to say that's the whole definition of investment.
Yeah.
Right? Is investing in, whether it's an idea or it's an action or in oneself or a purpose. I think you can be intimidated by what society and corporate America or VCs have, the energy that the negative energy that they've put behind the word investment.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to take that back, because investment's actually a very positive term, and it's a very positive connection. And I want to bring that back so that we can actually do good with investment and give the space and the opportunity for people that want to do good. And I think we can do that together. So that's the whole purpose, I think.
And I think those are our last words. So for any of you joining us for the first time, know that Lori embodies what our vision and the house of what a change maker looks like. And thank you for modeling for the rest of us what is possible. And my hope for anyone watching is they might see something in themselves because you showed up this way for all of us. And please connect with us again, all of the watchers, listeners, tuner-inners, whenever you're here. Every 2 weeks, we are live like this. And next week, we will be having a closed group that you're invited to. It's a wisdom circle where we just talk about what happened here and unpack it all in a non-public way, in that community kind of way. So we can say the things we're like, I don't know if this sounds, I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to throw it in here. And we can do that together. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, The Braid. Join us at powerhouse.com under Gather, and we will see you next week in our Wisdom Circle. Until then, bye.
This was incredible. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of the west of the week for you. Thank you.